Should I bulk or should I cut is one of the most common questions from beginners in fitness. And the biggest confusion these days is how do you fix skinny fat? Intuitively, it's easy to know that if you're skinny, you have to eat more. And if you're overweight, you have to eat less. But when you're kind of in between, what do you do? Well, I keep hearing and seeing examples of people who meet that criteria and they think that all they have to do is lose weight. But the problem is they keep restricting their calories, thinking that if they lose a little more weight, they'll see the physique that they're hoping for. But they don't have any muscle to show. They keep pushing their calories lower and lower. They feel like crap, it's not good for their body, and they're not seeing progress. The good news is it's far more simple than you might think, and I'm going to share that with you today. I'm a doctor who insists on being a fit dad, so I need to be efficient. And I want to show you how you can include fitness in your life regardless of how busy your schedule is. Regardless of what else you do, lifting weights must be the priority. If you are skinny fat, that is implying that you don't have very much muscle, and to some degree, you have too much fat. So even if you get yourself down to 10% body fat, you might look lean and you'll see some muscle definition, but you won't have very much muscle, and so you'll just look skinny. On the contrary, if you're walking around at 20% body fat, which is kind of that borderline of where it starts to become unhealthy, yet you've got a lot of muscle underneath, it's gonna show through and you'll probably look better than the skinny person with no muscle but less body fat. So in general, there are 3 ways to approach this depending on kind of where you are at on the spectrum of your body fat. And you can either bulk, you can either cut, or you can do body recomposition. Now, as I mentioned, most people who are skinny fat or just a little overweight feel like the answer is to cut. And they beat their head against the wall trying to lose weight, and it's not showing them the progress that they need. If you're in the realm of 10 to 15% body fat, you are much better off focusing on building muscle than losing body fat. The ideal situation for someone to focus on cutting down and actually losing weight is for somebody who's over 20% body fat or fairly close to 20% body fat, because they're already at that level of body fat that is unhealthy for them. And while they're cutting down on the weight, they're at a higher likelihood of also building muscle. So that person should eat at a slight calorie deficit, maybe 500 calories below their maintenance level, and focus on building muscle in the gym. That way, as they lean down, they're going to start to show the muscle that they're focusing on building. The downside to that is you're eating in a calorie deficit, so you have less energy to push yourself hard in the gym, and you've got less nutrition for recovery, so it's harder for you to get back in the gym again the next day. Now, bulking tends to be ideal for the person around 10 to 15% body fat that's already pretty lean. They just don't have much muscle to show. So in that situation, you're going to want to eat in a slight calorie surplus, maybe 200 or 300 calories above the maintenance, work out hard in the gym, and you're going to start to see that progress a lot easier as you're maximizing muscle gain by eating in a calorie surplus. You're also going to have a lot more energy, and so you're going to be able to push yourself harder and recover a lot faster while in a calorie surplus. The downside to this is that you're going to be putting on fat at the same time. So the closer you are to 15% body fat, the sooner you're going to start to feel like the fat is starting to hide all the muscle definition you might have had, and it might be a little bit discouraging as you're not seeing the muscle as easily. It's also less ideal for somebody who's already a bit insecure with how their body looks, and adding a little bit more fat might be detrimental to them. You definitely don't want to be bulking when you're closer to that 20% body fat, because then you're going to be pushing yourself further into an unhealthy range where you're going to have to stop your bulk early, and you really want to allow yourself adequate time to build muscle so you're not going back and forth with cutting, bulking, because then you're not going to make any progress. Now, for the person somewhat in between in that range of 15 to 20% body fat, it's not ideal for them to gain much weight from here, and they just want to maintain their weight and not worry about being in a calorie deficit and feeling less energy and having a harder time in the gym. You can focus on leaving your weight at the same, so eating roughly at your maintenance calorie needs and putting a lot of effort into building muscle in the gym. The nice part about this is then you don't have to worry about cutting down on the weight afterwards quite as much, and you're going to still have a good amount of energy to put into the gym and into recovery. On the downside, it might be harder to notice your progress because the visual changes take time and the scale weight is not supposed to change. But if you keep track of your progress in the gym and see that you're making progress week to week, adding weight to to the bar and doing more reps, that is going to be a good indicator that you are in fact building muscle. And if you keep going for several months, you'll start to see muscle showing up, pushing through the layer of fat, and you'll start to see the progress and be happy with it. Regardless of where you fall on the spectrum and which route you decide to choose, the number one priority must be to build muscle. So if you want more advice on how to build muscle or ways to avoid bad habits that are preventing you from building muscle, take a look at the video linked above as well as in the description below. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and I hope to see you in the next video.